from the studio in Nitro, West Virginia. This is Unreasonable Doubt. It's a podcast about West Virginia University basketball. I'm Josh Witt. It's been a minute, and it's going to be another minute after this game. But it is the last game of 2025, the last non-conference game, and the last by-game quiz of the season. Mississippi Valley State rounded out the non-conference schedule. And so let's do the by-game quiz. Did West Virginia win big? They did not cover the 42.5-point spread. I repeat, they didn't cover 42.5 points, but they did win by 35. So no harm done in the computers. Did anyone get injured? Not to my knowledge. Did any of the starters play heavy minutes? Eagle Staff and Huff played over 30, which I don't like, but no one else besides Eagle Staff and Huff played more than 23 minutes. So we'll mark that as a good thing. And so 3 for 3, bonus question on the back. What did we learn from this game? What did we learn? Not a ton. Mississippi Valley State has only won one game. It was against the Mississippi College for Women. I don't know how many more games they're going to win this season. What do you learn? I do hope in year 2 of the Ross Hodge era at WVU, I know I'm being presumptuous that that a coach will be here 2 seasons in a row. This is not a jinx. I do hope that the non-conference schedule is filled out with a little more competition. And it doesn't have to be like the toughest schedule in America, but West Virginia is going to finish with arguably 5 easiest, 10 easiest, one of the easiest non-conference schedules in Division I. So bump that up a little bit next season. Ross Hodge and crew. It's just so hard to get a good feel for a team when the opponent is really bad. And West Virginia played Coppin State, who is 364th in KenPom, and tonight they played the Delta Devils, who are, according to Ken Pomeroy's computer, the worst team in Division I basketball. And so I don't get anything from that, and anything you do gets a big asterisk. And you look at the footnote, it said, X player did that against the Mississippi Valley State Delta Devils. For example, Trayson Eaglestaff. I'm rooting for Trayson Eaglestaff. When he leads a team in scoring with 23 points, that is something you want to celebrate. He attacked the rim. He made some open threes. He grabbed 8 rebounds. And what's the opposite of a win-win situation? If you do good, that should be celebrated, and yet it happened, and we all know this. He did it against the Delta Devils. In West Virginia's 5 games against Power 5 opponents, Trayson Eaglestaff averaged 7 points, 3 rebounds, and 2 assists. Against Mississippi Valley State, he went for 23. So the alternative is he could also play bad against a bad team. And that's not good. It doesn't move the needle if Trayson Eaglestaff goes off against the Delta Devils. But I guess in all the scenarios of what to see from Trayson Eaglestaff, I'd pick what he did tonight. You'd rather have that than not. How that translates into future games, that is to be determined. We're going to find out. It hasn't been great against Power 5 opponents, and West Virginia has 18 in a row against Power 5 opponents coming up in the Big 12 schedule. No chance more tonight. Ross Hodge said in the post-game comments that he was not well. Like it was a game time. He wasn't feeling well. And so he sat tonight. But it did lead to questions about does Ross Hodge have a doghouse? And candidly, I miss the idea of the doghouse. I don't remember the last guy having somebody in the doghouse. Josh Eilert, that season, I don't. That whole season was a doghouse. It was terrible. And then, of course, the Hall of Fame coach before Josh Eilert was big time in the doghouse. So speculation during the game of Chance Moore suited up, not playing. Is Ross Hodge a doghouse guy? And we'll find out. But apparently it didn't happen tonight. So no Chance Moore. Chance Moore was not needed against the Delta Devils. So Morris Ugasuk back in the rotation after a did not play coach's decision versus Ohio State. And Ugasuk played 11 minutes, didn't score a point, 1 turnover, no other stats. And so Ugasuk, 5 games since the Charleston trip. There's the 1 did not play. The other 4 games, 1 of 10 from the field, 5 points, 5 rebounds. That might be the last we see of Ugasuk for a while, because I think it's going to go back to like Ohio State, not in the rotation. Amir Jenkins had a great first half, overall solid game. Everybody did fine. Obioha had a double-double asterisk. What does that say beside the asterisk? He did it against the Mississippi Valley State Delta Devils. It's just tough. Like Eagle Staff, you want Obioha to do great. He struggled here recently to get a double-double, to finish at the rim, to make his free throws. Those are all awesome things. Let's see how it looks. This is the jump. I don't think Eagle Staff nor Obioha nor some of these other guys that have been brought in have played 18 straight Power 5 opponents in a row. And that's the challenge, right? That's what West Virginia's up against. Ugasuk has, and he's on the struggle bus. So this was the 1 game over a 19-day stretch. So 9 days since the Ohio State game, and they're not playing until 2 Fridays from now. A lot of the other Big 12 teams are going to play early next week. West Virginia taking a break. The proverbial calm before the storm. So I don't know how that works overall. I do know that that's not going to be great for the first game back on the road in Ames, Iowa. But the non-conference schedule is over. A lot of the Big 12 teams still have 1 more game to play in their non-conference schedule. But let's take a look. It's time to see how the rest of the Big 12 has fared in their non-conference schedules. What is West Virginia up against when they enter its conference play? 18 games, 2 games removed from last season's schedule, 3 home and homes, 6 only play teams on the road, 6 games only play a team at home. So I'm going to go in order based on West Virginia's Big 12 schedule. And as I mentioned, Iowa State is first, and Iowa State is undefeated. They have 1 more non-conference game. They're going to win that game. So West Virginia will go to Ames to play an undefeated Iowa State team. They beat all 6 Power 5 teams that they played. One of the best wins for anybody this season, going into West Lafayette and beating Purdue at home by 23. Ken Pomeroy's computer has Iowa State as the 2nd best defense in the country. And so, of course, where does West Virginia start Big 12 play? Against the undefeated Iowa State Cyclones in Hilton. That's going to be rough. Next is Cincinnati. Cincinnati has had 5 losses. They are also really good at defense. They have the 9th best defense, according to Ken Pomeroy, but their offense has been gross. They scored 56 earlier this season against what is now a 6-7 Eastern Michigan team. So they have a bye game loss to their record. They also lost to Xavier and Clemson, like West Virginia has. Former Mountaineers playing for Cincinnati. Kirk Kreese starting at point guard for the Bearcats. Sincere Harris is coming off the bench. Checking in on Sincere Harris, he's made 3 threes on the season. He made 6 all last year for WVU, so he is on the path to have more threes than his time in Morgantown. So shout out to Sincere Harris. We'll be excited to see him play. Not excited to see him play against West Virginia. Jizzle James was kicked off the team before the season. Recently, he was brought back, and he's coming off the bench. West Virginia gets Cincinnati twice in what should be first 1 to 50 in both of those games. Kansas, amazing freshman who can't stay healthy. Another top 10 KenPom defense. Kansas's 3 losses are to Duke, North Carolina, and Connecticut. Have you heard of them? So no bad losses, beat a good Tennessee team. Lots of turnover. They're young, they're talented, and if Peterson is healthy, that's going to be a problem. Kansas comes to Morgantown. Houston, they only have 1 loss. They're the Terminator. The computer, a little bit down on Houston compared to previous seasons, and it has to be down when Houston has, the last couple of seasons going into conference play, have been number 1 in the computers. Now they're in the 9 to 12 range, but they're still the Terminator. They're still the conference champion favorites to me. They still have Sharp. They still have Uzan. They still have JoJo Tugler. They've got a talented freshman in Kingston Fleming. Another Ken Pomeroy top 10 defense. So West Virginia's first 4 conference games, they played 4 top 10 defenses to start the schedule. Not great, Bob. And Houston just put 94 on a talented Arkansas team in a win. So slightly down in the computers, but Houston is Houston to me. And of course, West Virginia has to go to Houston in their 4th game of the Big 12 schedule. Next is Colorado. They only have 2 losses so far. This is the first team West Virginia will play in Big 12 play that's not a top 10 KenPom defense. So that's a relief. Colorado's very tall. They're efficient on offense. They shoot the ball well. And they come to Morgantown. Is this a revenge game if West Virginia has a completely different coach and all different players? It's a revenge game to me. In my heart, it's a revenge game. Arizona State, they still are coached by Bobby Hurley. Somehow he's still there. They have essentially a whole new roster from last season. They have some impressive wins. They beat Texas. They beat Oklahoma, but they just lost to Oregon State at home. West Virginia visits Tempe for the first time in Big 12 play. Arizona is the other undefeated Big 12 team as of this recording. They have good wins. They beat Florida. They beat UCLA. They beat Connecticut. They beat Auburn. They beat Alabama. They start 3 freshmen, but they also got familiar guys. Bradley's still there. Del Orso's still there. Krivas is still there. Another top 10 Ken Pomeroy defense. I mean, not that you're keeping track. I'm keeping track. West Virginia's first 7 Big 12 games, 5 of those teams are top 10 defense in the country. That's a problem. And West Virginia's going to Tucson, and that's going to be a problem. Kansas State is next. This is one of the teams West Virginia plays twice. Kansas State already has a 4-game losing streak in their non-conference schedule, but they play fast. They're good at offense. They're great from 3. They're currently shooting 41%. Defense is average. Baylor, same head coach in Drew, but a whole new roster. They only have 2 losses, and they're to St. John's and Memphis. They have a talented freshman guard, a bunch of portal seniors, top 10 Ken Pomeroy offense. They scored over 110 points in 3 different games this season. Average defense, Baylor comes to Morgantown. Texas Tech, the student versus pupil game. Grant McCaslin versus his former assistant Ross Hodge. Texas Tech has the Big 12 Player of the Year in JT Toppin. Christian Anderson's still there. They've lost 3 games, but they just beat Duke recently. They shoot a bunch of threes. Always interesting when coaches know each other. Throw the statistics out when these guys know each other really well. They know their tendencies. They have you heard they coached together for years? UCF has come out of the gates hot. Only one loss, and that loss was to a great Vanderbilt team. They have a complete new roster. They're great at shooting threes. They shoot over 40% from 3 as a team. They're number 3 in the country in offensive rebounding. They're really tall. Johnny Dawkins is still there. Could this be his best Big 12 record at Central Florida? We'll see. West Virginia plays the Knights twice in 3 weeks later in the Big 12 schedule. Utah is officially the basement team. Some seasons in the Big 12, there's like a bunch of teams near the bottom, but there's no real basement. If there is a basement, Utah is in it right now, subject to change. But Utah's looking around like, where's everybody else? And it's just them in the basement. They have a new coach. They have a mostly new roster. They beat a good Mississippi team, but they also lost a bye game to Cal Poly at home. Former Mountaineer James Okonkwo is lurking as a Ute, coming off the bench, getting spot minutes. James Okonkwo. When's the last time you thought about that? Doesn't that feel a lifetime ago? Okonkwo playing multiple seasons in West Virginia, and then went to North Carolina, went to Akron, and now in Utah. Utah has the worst defensive numbers in the Big 12. They come to Morgantown for the second season in a row. You got to beat Utah. If there's a basement team in your conference and you're not the basement team, you have to beat the basement team. So mark that game. I'll call it right now, must win. West Virginia must beat Utah at home. TCU, they started the season losing a bye game to New Orleans. Then they played Michigan close. They beat Florida. Jamie Dixon's still there. Always solid defensively, sketchy on offense. West Virginia goes to the dreaded Frog Court, which is always a problem. And that awaits West Virginia and Ross Hodge late February. Oklahoma State has only one loss at the time of this recording. Steve Lutz almost turned the entire roster over again in year 2, but they have wins over Texas A&M and Northwestern. They play fast. They play in transition. They want to run. On their roster, they have a Kanye and they have a Victorious. So that's neat. West Virginia plays at Stillwater. And then the last team, different team that West Virginia plays, BYU. They come to Morgantown at the end of February. Their only loss was in Boston to Connecticut. They have a lottery pick guy in DeBonsa. Richie Saunders and his Cobra Kai vibes are still there. They're top 10 in Ken Pomeroy offense and top 20 in Ken Pom defense. They're a problem. Who's guarding DeBonsa? Like in Division I basketball, much less which Mountaineer is going to pick him up. My guess is going to be Lorient, but that's going to be rough. So to recap, do you hear? I mean, there's one basement team, but the basement team, not a cupcake. Only one team, and that's Utah, that's outside of the Ken Pom top 100. I'll say this again. In West Virginia's first 7 Big 12 games, they play 5 top 10 defenses in Division I basketball. What do you think's going to happen? Before the season, I predicted West Virginia would win 8 Big 12 games this season. Based on what you've seen from the Mountaineers in 13 games, does 8 Big 12 wins, when I go through what's in the Big 12, does 8 feel attainable? It feels a little ambitious. I don't think it's out of the question, but if I could move the prediction, I would dial it back a couple. It feels more like 6, but who knows? You got to play the games, and we'll see what it looks like soon enough. But overall impressions of the non-conference schedule, 7 sub-300 teams was in those 13 games, which is not great. Don't learn a ton in those games. Trace and Eagle staff, can he do it against better competition? Harlan Obioha, can he do it against better competition? How will Amir Jenkins look against better competition as a freshman? Can Honor Huff do what he's done in the non-conference schedule against Big 12 competition? It's a jump up. And so far, West Virginia, in their jump ups, it hasn't went great. But no blowouts. See, that's the weird part, is that it hasn't went great in the step-ups. They're all step-ups now. And so does that mean West Virginia is going to go 0-18 in the Big 12? I don't think that's going to happen. But they haven't done it yet. So that's going to linger until they do. And as tough as the beginning of the Big 12 schedule is, when can they mark that off the list? When will West Virginia get their first Big 12 conference win? I don't see it happening on January 2nd in their first game. If you don't get the win versus Cincinnati, then it's Kansas and Houston. That's a problem. And then you get Colorado at home. And if West Virginia doesn't get a win in those first 5 games, yikes. Oh, but is that possible? Oh, I don't want to answer that. I'm excited for it, though. I like this team. I like all the players. Let's see what happens. Unreasonable Doubt is under the Smoking Musket umbrella. Go to smokingmusket.com. Read posts about WVU sports, daily throwdown. Check that out. Go to the Discord. We're talking about WVU sports and other stuff on the Smoking Musket Discord. Link for that is in the show notes. Listen to West by Pod, the WVU football podcast under the Smoking Musket umbrella. Do all that stuff. Smoking Musket. The next game for WVU is in 2026, January 2nd, 9 p.m., a late start, ESPN2. West Virginia goes to Ames, Iowa to play what will be an undefeated Iowa State Cyclones team. And brace yourself, West Virginia was a 42.5-point favorite tonight. They might be a 20-point underdog against the Cyclones. And their head coach is still wearing tight polos, and Joshua Jefferson is still there. Momcilovic, am I saying that right? He's a matchup problem. Eagle staff versus him, that's a problem. Maybe Chance Moore gets in there and guards him, but he's the nightmare matchup. Nobody stopped Joshua Jefferson this year. Brennan Lorient is going to take a stab at it. West Virginia only plays Iowa State once, and so if you're playing the undefeated, one of the best teams in the conference, I would argue let's get it out of the way early, and West Virginia will get to do that. And this test is similar to the bye game test, the bye game quiz. But the questions here it's still the same. Did you lose by a ton? Instead of did you win by a ton? Did you lose by a ton? You want that answer to be no. because a close loss can help in the computers. Injury, do you leave without any injuries? You always want that. And those are the two questions. It's a quick quiz. When you're going to be a 20-point underdog, if you lose by 12, even if you get those points in garbage time, the computers are good with that. You don't want losses, but this is a scheduled loss. So cover the spread, take the L, come back healthy, and try to keep the home winning streak alive versus Cincinnati. Can West Virginia hang with the undefeated Iowa State in Hilton on a Friday night? We'll find out. We will find out. That's it for this episode of Unreasonable Doubt. Listen on all the platforms, or just pick one: Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, Overcast Podcasts, Pocket Cast Podcasts, YouTube. Until next time, I'm Josh Witt. WVU for the 2025-2026 season. They have 9 wins and they have 4 losses.